So I'll take the liberty of calling the Finance Committee to order. So the first course of business is to have a presentation by the Acting General Manager of Finance and Technology. So if I could have you speak to the individual reports, please.
Thank you. So the first report that I'm going to discuss will be Report F049, the 2015 5-year 2015 to 2019 financial plan for general operating. And just to start with, the proposed 5-year financial plan has been developed based on discussion provided by Council over the course of time and builds on the adopted 2014 financial plan. There's several key priority areas that have been identified, and these include public safety and crime prevention, which encompasses police services, fire services, and bylaw services. So to start with, police services, the 2015 proposed financial plan includes the addition of 100 new RCMP members to be added in 2015. In addition, a further 16 RCMP members will be added in each of the future years from 2016 through to 2019. Along with these additional members, they're accompanied by relative increases in civilian support staff to maintain appropriate ratio of support. The 2015 financial plan includes funding for the new RCMP positions effective October 1, and the financial impact of these members and the support civilians for 2015 is $3.9 million. The annual impact of the additional officers and support staff is $14.5 million per year. In fire services, the current complement of firefighters has been deemed satisfactory for 2015. However, it is important to note that although the level of resources at the current level is satisfactory for 2015, the cost of providing these services has increased notably. And this is predominantly due to the new fire services contract that was settled earlier this fall. The additional cost of fire services for 2015 is $3.7 million. In the bylaw enforcement area, the 2015 plan has included funding for 3 new bylaw officer positions. And then in addition to that, Surrey Crime Prevention Society who has also been providing services to the community since 1982. These services include community safety tours, citizen community safety watch, traffic safety programs, and they participate in a number of public events. The city has been a strong supporter of the Surrey Crime Prevention Society, and the financial support in 2015, they have requested an increase of $145,000 to their annual ongoing grant, which currently is at $84,500. This would bring their ongoing grant to $230,000. A corporate report to address this request is coming forward this evening, so I'll leave the details of that for at that time. However, it is important to note that that increase, should Council choose to support it, has been incorporated into this 2015 financial plan. And then Section 3.2 of the corporate report talks about staffing capacity, and the financial plan incorporates funding for staff costs that are directly related to the operation of the new civic facilities that are opening in 2015. These staff costs are partially offset by revenues generated by the respective facilities. Staffing costs related to salary increases stipulated in the current QP labor settlement have also been accounted for in the 2015 proposed financial plan. In Section 3.3 for sustainability, sustainability continues to be a priority for the city. The Sustainability Office has recently added a community energy planner position that will be implementing the city's community energy and emissions plan. This community energy planner position will be funded 50% from BC Hydro and 50% from the Climate Action Revenue Incentive Program, also known as CAREB program, so that this position has been fully funded within the plan. Under new facilities, the 2014 to 2018 adopted financial capital plan included several major capital projects. These included the art and fitness expansion of the South Surrey Recreation Centre, New City Hall Community Plaza, Cloverdale Youth Park, both Grandview and Guildford pools, and the replacement of the City Works Yard. The ongoing operating costs of these facilities have been incorporated into the 2015 to 2019 General Operating Financial Plan. So then in Section 4.0, I'll summarize the funding requirements associated with some of these key initiatives. In the RCMP policing services, their requirements include the annualization of 12 RCMP members, the addition of the 100 that were added in 2014, the addition of 100 RCMP members that are being added in October 2015. And just on a note there, it is important to note that should these officers be available sooner, we will be able to bring them on as soon as they are able to start. So while we budgeted for them in October, we are able to bring them on as soon as they're available to come. We've also added additional civilian staff to support the member increases and had labor and other increases, labor benefit increases as well. So the total increase requirements for RCMP is $9.6 million. This will bring the total expenditures of police services to $132.5 million. In fire services, accounting for their labor increases and other third-party contract increases, their required increase is $3.9 million. This will bring the total fire services amount to $57.6 million. And in bylaw services, we have salary and other related increase in addition to the new bylaw positions, bringing their requirements to $0.4 million for 2015, and this will increase their financial requirements to $6.3 million annually. And as mentioned, Surrey Crime Prevention Society, we've accounted for an additional $0.14 million. So the total additional funding requirements for public safety is $14.159 million. The public safety total expenditures amount to $196.6 million, and this accounts for 66.7% of our general operating budget. Other corporate funding requirements include labor increases excluding public safety and fire, operating costs for new facilities, third-party contract increase, inflation and inventory increases, internal borrowing repayments, and additional contributions to capital, amounting to a further $25.6 million. The total funding required for 2015 is $39.7 million. Adding in the budgeted transfer from surplus of $4.9 million puts the requirement of 2015 at $44.7 million. So on Section 5, to accommodate these additional increased expenditures, we've identified new funding sources, and those include property tax and revenue increases resulting from new growth at $5.8 million, property tax revenue increase of 2.9%, that accounts for $8.1 million, revenue growth and new revenues amounting to an additional $6.2 million, culture and recreational parcel tax generating $16.1 million, and secondary suite fee increases amounting to $4.6 million. This brings total additional revenue in at $40.9 million. The proposed culture and recreational parcel tax would be charged to each parcel based on the relative tax ratio. For example, business and industrial properties would be charged at 2 times what residential properties would be charged at. This parcel tax will provide a funding source for council-supported initiatives in the culture and recreation area. And the 2015 to 2019 financial plan incorporates a flat $100 parcel tax for each of the respective classes. And the secondary suite fees, in 2015, we have aligned the secondary suite fees with the comparable with that of a comparable one-bedroom condominium in relation to the property taxes. The proposed 2015 secondary suite would be set at $526.42 per unit. So now just to give context to where the proposed property taxes are, currently the slide that I'm just showing here shows our taxes per capita as compared to other municipalities within the region. And you can see on a per capita basis that the City of Surrey is significantly lower than our neighboring communities throughout the region. And this compares, the green bar is our 2014 taxes. With these increases, that will represent what our 2015 property taxes would be compared to what other municipalities' 2014 taxes are currently set at, as we don't have information on what other municipalities will be doing as yet. And then the impact on the single-family dwelling unit here. Currently, the City of Surrey has the lowest residential taxes for a single-family dwelling unit. We anticipate that the taxes in Surrey will still remain the lowest. Currently, as I mentioned, the 2015 property taxes are being compared to 2014 property taxes in other municipalities, and therefore we feel that when all the other communities have adopted their budgets, we will still remain in the lowest position throughout the region. As far as business goes, the City of Surrey has maintained the second lowest business taxes in the metro region, and we maintain that that will still continue to exist. So just in summary, the new funding that is available for the 2015 financial plan is $40.8 million, and additional funding requirements amount to $44.7 million. Therefore, this will require a budgeted transfer from surplus of $3.8 million for 2015. So based on the discussion and the information provided, it is recommended that the Finance Committee recommend to Council that the recommendations in Section 4 of this report be adopted, and that they direct staff to prepare the 2015 to 2019 financial plan. Now, at this point, we can take questions on this report, or we can go through all the reports and take questions after, whatever the preference of the Chair would be.
We'll take questions at the end, so I'll encourage you just to move into the financial plan for utilities and other.
So at this time, Cam Gruel is going to discuss the 2015 utilities plan. Cam?
Thank you, Suzanne. So I will be presenting the utilities component of the 2015 to 19 financial plan. The City of Surrey does manage and maintain 7 distinct utilities that include our water utility, the sewer utility, drainage, diking, flood control utility, solid waste, roads and traffic utility, parking, and the district energy utility. Before I move on to discussing the changes proposed in the water utility charge rates for 2015, I would like to bring to light that the city's utilities are predominantly a user-based or a consumption-based charge. And effectively what that means is that the higher the usage, typically that equates to a higher the charge. And so ultimately our residences and businesses are empowered to have some control over what their charges are by controlling their consumption. So using that as context, I would like to speak to the water utility changes proposed in the 2015 plan. Over 10 years ago, the city did adopt the residential watering program. Currently, we have 60,000 water meter accounts that are active. This represents 68% of all single-family dwellings in the City of Surrey, and is up from 60% from last year. All businesses in the City of Surrey are also water metered accounts. There are 2 main drivers related to the proposed increase for 2015 related to the water utility. The first is the GVWD, the Greater Vancouver Water District, is increasing the rate for the bulk water by 1.07 cents per cubic meter. This translates into an increase of $4.28 for the average single home that is on metered billing. The second driver is an increase of 1.35 cents per cubic meter, and this is proposed to support the ongoing requirements of both the general and operating requirements of the utility itself for water. Based on these 2 factors, the 2015 to 2019 financial plan includes a total increase of 2.42 cents per cubic meter, bringing the rate to 89.5 cents. This proposed increase translates to an increase of $9.68 per year for the average single-family metered dwelling. The average business will see an increase of $48.40 per year. Flat water rates will also be adjusted to reflect the proposed rate change outlined in the report. And finally, the water utility, it is expected the bulk rate is expected to increase between 2.9 and 4.4 cents per cubic meter for the remaining 4 years of the plan, and these increases will need to be incorporated. Next, I'll discuss the changes proposed to the sewer utility. In 2014, metered utility customers were charged a rate of 86.88 cents per cubic meter of sewer discharge. The 2015 to 2019 proposed financial plan includes a modest increase to the sewer rate driven predominantly by two key factors. The first is a Greater Vancouver Sewage and Drainage District, known as the GVS and DD, will be increasing sewer charge-out rates by 3.4%. This translates to an increase of $5.98 for the average single-family dwelling that is on metered billing. The second driver for the increase is that an increase is necessary in order to support the city's 10-year servicing plan and to accommodate increases to costs to support the operating capital program for the sewer utility. Accordingly, it is recommended in the 2015 to 2019 financial plan that the sewer utility be increased to 90.625 cents. This increase of 3.75 cents per cubic meter of discharge equates to an increase for the average single-family home in the city that is on metered billing by $11.98 per year. The average business in the city will see an increase of $59.92 per year, and similar to the water utility, the flat rate for sewer will also be adjusted to reflect this new proposed rate. The GVS and DD is expected to increase sewer charges between 6.5% and 7.5% in the remaining 4 years of the financial plan, and corresponding changes will need to be incorporated by staff. Moving on to the drainage, diking, and flood protection utility, the 2014 drainage parcel tax is set at $201 per lot, and this is for residential and farm properties, and $224 for all other property classes. In order to support the increased operational and capital costs related to the city's drainage infrastructure, the 2015 to 2019 proposed financial plan includes an increase to the residential and farm classifications of $12, bringing it to $213 per lot, and an increase to all other classes in the amount of $35 per lot, bringing those categories to $259 per lot. The solid waste utility, the 2014 solid waste rates is $283 per year, and that is for a single-family household. After careful study and analysis, staff is recommending that the solid waste rates for 2015 remain unchanged. This is possible primarily due to two favorable factors. The first was the successful implementation of the city's organic waste and collection services, and the second was a multi-material recycling program known as MMBC that was rolled out by the province of British Columbia. The GVRD is projecting that the solid waste tipping fee will increase between $1 and $5 per metric ton for the remaining 4 years of the financial plan, and accordingly the solid waste rates will need to reflect this. Next, I'll move on to the parking utility. The below-ground parkade at City Hall became operational in 2014. The revenues generated from the parking will support the direct ongoing operational and maintenance costs associated to the parkade, and will also contribute toward the debt repayment for the construction of the parkade itself. The 2015 to 2019 proposed financial plan recommends no increases to the parking rates, maintaining 2014 levels as follows: $75 for non-reserve parking and an hourly rate of $1.50. The district energy utility. The Surrey City Energy, which is the city's district energy utility, will be providing services to its first two customers in 2015. The two new customers are the Wave development by Rise Alliance and Phase 1 of PCI's King George Station development, which will house the headquarters for Coast Capital Savings. The 2015 to 19 proposed financial plan includes energy charges as follows: $48 per megawatt hour of energy consumed, and additionally for Class 1 buildings, which is residential and mixed use, will have a charge of $0.017 per square meter per day, And for Class 2 buildings, which is commercial mixed use, they'll have a charge of $0.233 per kilowatt per day. It is expected that the district energy system will require expansion in 2015 in order to service new upcoming projects, including the Bosa University District and Gateway projects. The last utility is the roads and traffic utility. The roads and traffic levy supports many critical functions within the city, including the ongoing capital and operational maintenance of local, collector, and RDO roads throughout the city. It also provides appropriate maintenance to roads affected by inclement weather. The levy supports the wire theft abatement program. It is used to provide various safety measures, including crosswalks, sidewalks, traffic calming measures, traffic congestion measures. And finally, the levy also supports various educational and enforcement activities. The 2015 to 2019 financial plan incorporates a modest increase to the roads and traffic levy, such that the average single-family dwelling will pay an additional $15.56 per year, and the average business in the city will pay an additional $68.16 in 2015, with similar adjustments to the levy in the remaining 4 years of the 5-year financial plan. These increases are in alignment with the projections included in the adopted 2014 to 2018 financial plan and will ensure that adequate funding is available to meet the city's transportation needs. That concludes the utilities component of the budget presentation, and I'll turn it back to Suzanne.
Excellent.
So now I'll discuss report F051, which is the 2015 5-year financial capital plan for the capital program. So in section 2.0, this section here provides council with an update of the capital projects that were approved in 2014 financial plan and the status of those projects. So I'm not going to go through those in detail. They're there for council to review. In section 3.0, the annual capital program is composed of the ongoing general capital program and minor capital projects to maintain and or enhance the city's current inventory infrastructure. The major capital element, the section of this program, includes a series of large-scale capital projects that will be constructed over the next few years. These are required to support business and residential growth within the community. Section 3.1, the table there, identifies the funding incorporated into the capital plan and the ongoing requirements to maintain the present assets. Some of the initiatives that will be addressed through the ongoing program include interior upgrades, building envelope repair, turnstile improvements, additional washrooms, and some minor park improvements. So with this funding and less the ongoing capital requirements, there will be $32,842,000 available for new projects. Section 3.2 identifies the major capital projects that are proposed over the next 5 years. Some of the significant projects include a proposed Clayton Recreation Arts Library District Office, estimated to be approximately $20 million. Twin ice surfaces for Cloverdale, estimated to be approximately $35 million. And the replacement of the North Surrey Arena, which is estimated to be approximately $45 million. In addition to that, there's a number of additional capital works that have been identified that are slightly smaller in scale, and there's also the completion of some capital works that are underway, such as the City Works Yard and the Grandview Heights Pool. Another project that's also identified in here is the proposal of the enhancement of the expansion of the Surrey Museum that's located in Cloverdale. So in addition to the major capital projects, capital funding is also available for development cost charges, funding from TransLink, and from sundry developer contributions. The total funding amount available for the 2015 engineering and park-related capital infrastructure programs amount to $174.2 million. An overview of the entire capital program is attached to this report as Appendix 2. So therefore it's recommended that the Finance Committee recommend to Council that the approved capital, that they approve the capital projects as outlined in Section 3, and they direct staff to prepare the 2015 5-year financial capital plan to incorporate these projects. So those 3 reports will encompass our 5-year financial plan for 2015 to 2019.
Thank you. And prior to going to public consultation, if we've got any questions from council, we can deal with it both now and at the time we deal with the corporate report. So feel your need to ask the question now or later. So do we have any questions from council? Mayor Hepner.
Thank you. Yes, if I could ask just a couple of questions, please. Relative to the Dr. Cohen's report suggesting that we needed 147 officers, particularly on the in the arena of policing, neighborhood policing, does this number at the 100 plus, am I correct in understanding that we have both 12 and 18, so 30 due this spring? Because I only saw an annualized cost for 12. Is there another annualized cost for the 18 later? And then this 100 will get us up to the 130? Then we add the 16, the 16, and the 16. Am I correct in my analysis? I'm just not sure where the annualized is for the 18.
The 18 have been incorporated into the financial plan.
They're already there?
That's right.
Okay, thank you. And secondly, the fire services, the 3.5 million, was that an increase? Was that a catch-up from 2011, 2012, and 2013? For contract?
That's right. The 2014 financial plan included fire services at their 2011 salary rate, and their new contract settled effective January 1, 2012. So those 3 years were needed to be incorporated, well, 4 including 2015.
And am I correct in understanding the operation of both the Guildford and the Grandview pools comes out to about $2 million each per year?
That's correct.
Okay, I'm just adding this up on why we are where we are, because we seem to have a sort of a structural deficit here. I did not notice, I thought in your presentation you talked about an additional 1% in the road levy, and I thought our road levy was staying at that 1%.
I'm sorry if I misrepresented that. That would be equivalent 1% increase in the road levy.
That's the same as before.
Consistent with the 2014 plan.
Okay, and I thought those graphs were very telling, because they show where we are, why we are where we are, and sometimes being maybe the lowest is not the best place in the world to be, because as you do a percentage increase when you're the lowest, you don't get much money for it. But could you just define for me, if you included those levies as we've now defined them, are we still within that low category, or does that bump us up?
That's a single family. Including the levies, I'll just put this back up here. This would include the levies for the 2015. So right now it appears that perhaps we might go to position number 2 with the proposed new levy. However, I just want to really reiterate that this is compared to other municipalities' 2014 taxes, and so anticipating that they will have increases in theirs, I anticipate that we will still remain the lowest in the region after incorporating the proposed levy.
So that includes all of the levies,
That's
including
right.
the one that is being suggested now for the Build Surrey?
These rates here include both utilities and taxes, so this is overall. Includes all costs to the taxpayers.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Villeneuve.
Thank you. I just was looking at the capital program, and I just want to ensure that over the next 5 years, if opportunities arise for projects, that we can take advantage, at least for discussion of those projects. As usual, I note that there's a large emphasis on recreation and not as much emphasis on culture and the arts. And so we do have a levy that's recreation and culture. So I'm just bringing that to mind. And I know there's been discussion of 1 or 2 new projects that are part of the cultural plan. And I just want to ensure that there's an opportunity to have that discussion over the next 5 years in this budget.
So through the chair, the financial plan that's proposed is a 5-year financial plan for 2015 through to 2019. However, we will come back next year and relook at the plan again. So it's a rolling 5-year plan at all takes. So when we introduce 2016, it's an opportunity to, if necessary, reevaluate where we are at with what we're delivering.
Thank you.
Councillor Hain.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of quick points or questions. The first one on the operating plan, and I noticed that we've got provisions in there for 3 new bylaw officers in the coming year, and certainly we are putting a big emphasis on public safety holistically in the city, and I know in speaking with the manager of bylaws that we've moved to a 7-day-a-week shift and things like that, but I would urge us all, and I'd urge staff as well, to as we're looking at the next year in planning preparations, that we take a close look at bylaws, because we're asking them to do an awful lot, from signage to suites to problem properties and so on, and they are really an integral part of our public safety component in the city. And so I'd like to see us in the coming year place even greater emphasis on bylaws. So that would be my one comment on the operating budget. On the capital budget, I just want to ensure that projects like the upgrades and so on to the Newton Wave Pool and Recreation Centre and that are already accounted for, because they're not in that 5-year capital plan. So I just wanted to make sure that I understand correctly that upgrades like that have already been budgeted, and so we're not budgeting twice for them.
Through the chair, the Newton recreation expansion was budgeted in a prior year. My understanding is that the public consultation has been completed and they're just about ready to move to design on that project, and the funding is secured and is basically held specifically for that project to move forward. That's why it's not included in this one. It's already funded.
Right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Steele.
I just wanted to make sure that in the capital projects, the museum, the second phase of the museum was outlined and included in this for sure. And it's hard when you're listening, you miss sometimes. And also the plans for the North Surrey Arena.
So through the chair, the museum is included in this plan in 2016, and I believe that the North Surrey is in 2015. The initial planning for that relocation is to start in 2015, but hence it's a big project, so it'll be done over multi-years.
Good. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for a second opportunity, because I have a couple more questions. If some of those opportunities present themselves in a 3P model or in a request for proposal model, that we perhaps provide land and somebody else does a building and operational, particularly as it comes to large arena projects, which are incredibly expensive, does that drop us significantly, or where would we be reevaluating that at each year as the years go by in the 5-year?
Madam Mayor, that's exactly what we're planning to do. We're exploring all delivery options for large facilities such as the arenas. So in fact, we are looking at that possibility for arenas. And then what would happen if that reduced our burden on a capital program? We would then bring it back to council next year when we redo the budget, and then there'd be additional flexibility at that point.
Thank you.
Excellent. Seeing no more questions, we're going to move into the next part of the agenda. We're going to move into public consultations. So we're going to have an opportunity for the members of the public and others to provide comment. And if you could line up and provide your name and your address for the record. So right up front, sir. Did you have any questions? Please come forward. Right in the center, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Tarlojan Sandhu, And I have a couple of questions. The first thing I have asked is another question. Is there a tradition here? I'm seeing Linda is sitting there and Tom is sitting there.
So I'm
exchange these seats.
so I'm chair of finance, so we are in finance committee, so that's why I'm sitting here today.
Oh,
but in
great.
probably 20 minutes, the mayor will be resuming her role.
Yeah. The second question is not a question. The first question is concerning with safety and police. Are you going with the numbers or are you going with trained policemen?
So
I myself is suffering with Parkinson's disease. Last year, police stopped me about more than a year ago. And I told them I have Parkinson's. No, you're drunk. They are shouting at me. And they put me handcuffed. And I said, well, I was surprised. I said, well, and why are they putting me handcuffed? I told them, if you have any problem, take me to the hospital and check me out. They didn't listen to me at all. They struggled. I was standing there. I didn't fight it. I didn't say anything. Then they talked to their boss. Even talking to their boss, they were laughing at me. And is that kind of policemen you want to hire or just like a fully trained police?
So I can assure you that we are going to be hiring fully trained officers. I think that your instance that you have is hopefully a rare instance that does not happen again, so my apologies on behalf of the RCMP, but certainly we will be hiring fully qualified RCMP officers. Did staff have any comment to make towards the delegate?
Oh, sorry.
Just reaffirming that all the officers that we're proposing will in fact be RCMP officers.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you.
The point is, I was telling the police officer, I said, officer, I have a problem. I have Parkinson's disease. Here is my medicine. Here is my car, and don't put me handcuffed. And he said, no, you did this and you did that. You know, he was shouting at me, and he put handcuffed and put me in the car. And then they checked my car. Then they came back. Both were laughing and joking. This guy is this and crippled and all. And they shouldn't say that. You know, it's not I did it. Something happened by nature.
Well, I can assure you it's likely an isolated incident, but surely we will get a message back to the officer in charge. So thank you for your comment.
Yeah, thank you. You know, but I wanted to be treated like the other citizen. If you have Parkinson or other problem, you never know, it can go away anytime. You know, it can come back to so many people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
And the other question, my friend, he wanted to ask, but he didn't come up. You know, he said, we are talking about the tax. You know, we have 2.9% tax on the property and this tax, that. But I think it belongs to the question to the provincial government or municipal government. I'm not very sure. And is there any increasement of the basic pay of whatever the get to be disabled people or the senior people? Is there any increase in tax and is there any increase in their income?
Sorry, your question is there any increase in
by percentage? If you are increasing tax by 3%, and their income and will be increased too. Those are senior, like over 65, and those are disabled, you know, any age. Did you get my point, sir?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question.
Yeah, I think Honorable Linda got it. My question is, the question is, are citizen of a senior citizen,
yes,
or the disabled people, they going to an increasement this year or not?
If they're receiving any federal benefits, I can't speak to them. I can only speak to City of Surrey issues in terms of our taxes and increases that we're proposing.
This question shouldn't be asked here. You know, it belongs to the federal government, not even provincial government, right?
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So do we have any other members of the community that would like to make some comments? Please come forward. Please state your name and your address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Gill and Finance Committee members. My name is Linda Stromberg. I live at 6617 181st Street in Surrey. As a resident of Surrey, I'd like to begin by dispelling the notion that Surrey has the lowest property taxes in the region. This is simply not true. According to a Metro Vancouver report on municipal property tax rates in 2013, Surrey's residential property tax rate is higher than 7 of the 21 municipalities listed. In fact, our residential property tax in 2013 was higher than Vancouver, West Vancouver, Richmond, and Burnaby. So I printed it off, and I understand there's a dispute over that, but hopefully in 2014 we'll get an update. But if staff would like to take a look at that, how they look at the numbers, they do it by municipality and break out every part of it. Business and industry property taxes are higher in Surrey than several Metro Vancouver municipalities, but when compared to just the larger communities, they are the lowest in the 2013 report. Regarding the 5-year general operating financial plan, this plan makes recommendations on several new funding sources, including a property tax increase of 2.9%. And since business and industrial properties are charged at 2 times the residential rate, they will see an increase of 5.8%. I do not oppose the suggested increase in residential tax, though I would note that for some members of the community, any increase will cause added hardship. And it's clear that it is indeed an increase, despite the rationale that it is to cover inflation. I do not oppose this. Given that Surrey's business and industry property taxes are the lowest by a significant amount of the major municipalities in Metro Vancouver, according to that reference that I've just provided, I believe that there is room for an added tax for businesses, a further increase for business tax, and possibly a levy to help offset applied to businesses to help offset our policing costs. And I would encourage you to consider this option rather than many of those listed that will largely be borne by the residents. Cultural and recreation parcel tax to be applied as a flat rate of $100 to residential property owners, and based on that 2 times formula, it would be $200 to business and industrial property owners. There was no indication prior to or during the election that funding for culture and recreation would require such a tax. So it's come as quite a surprise, and I would like you to consider alternative sources, perhaps by offsetting the policing costs with a levy on business. It would free up the funds needed for the culture and recreation services that we so desperately need. I also would like to see the user fee increase for parks and recreation service and facilities rolled back if possible. We need to encourage the use of these facilities for the health and well-being of our citizens, not discourage their use by increasing fees. Both the $100 levy on residential property owners and the user fee increase for parks and rec put an unfair burden on families who are already stretched and reaching into their pockets due to underfunding of services like public education. Regarding the secondary suite fee increase, affordable housing and availability of rental stock was brought up during the election as a concern. Increasing taxes for secondary suites increases costs to the renter, so I would oppose those. The 1% increase in the road and traffic levy. The rate noted in my 2014 property tax notice is 0.14551, up significantly from 0.02043 when it first appeared on my tax bill in 2008. The line referencing this levy in the operating plan states a 1% increase per year in the road and traffic levy. Quite frankly, I feel we have already seen an extraordinary increase in this levy, and I'm not happy to see it remain beyond the original temporary 5-year plan, let alone to see a further increase. 3.9% across the board fee increases. I've already indicated that I oppose fee increases for parks and recreation services and facilities. I do, however, think that it's an opportunity to increase fees for certain bylaw infractions beyond the 3.9%, and that rather than a sweeping common increase, a closer look at the nature and scope of certain infractions could result in more appropriate and effective penalties. I was pleased to hear Mayor Hepner say, and I quote, "We've done a good job of managing our city's finances over the past 9 years, so we're in a good position to afford the increase in police officers. Good management means we have the ability to complete the plan and provide the people and resources we need in the months and years ahead." It was therefore surprising to read that the promise to hire 100 police officers was the largest cost pressure and that this was the hardest budget to prepare in 9 years, according to the finance chair. It was also disappointing and cause for concern to read that cost pressures, including a benefits increase to the RCMP and a pay increase to Surrey firefighters, came as a surprise to the finance chair. It's my understanding that the Surrey firefighters' contract was agreed and settled before the election, and any benefits increase to the RCMP would surely have been outlined in the contract the city signed in 2011, and therefore be known and presumably planned for moving forward. In conclusion, I'm disappointed overall to see a 5-year plan that not only increases my property taxes to offset inflationary increases, but adds yet another new tax. Regarding the 5-year plan for utilities and other, I have comments regarding 3 items in this plan and questions on 2 items. In 2015, water utility rates, the 2015 water utility rates. I do not oppose this increase, but would like to note that rates have increased by 30 cents per cubic meter since 2008, when the rate was 59 cents per cubic meter. Regarding the drainage, diking, flood protection utility parcel tax. The drainage parcel tax first appeared on my property tax notice in 2001 and was $140. This tax held relatively steady, with annual increases ranging from as low as $0 to as high as $5. It had reached $166 by 2012, and then took a large leap in 2013 when it increased $22 to $188. In 2014, the increase amounted to $13, bringing it to $201. And now this budget has a $12 increase planned, which will bring it to $213. I'm concerned by the size of the more recent increases to this levy, and I'd like to know why recent increases have been so much larger than previous, and what the increases per residential property taxpayer through 2018 will be.
Through the chair, on the question of the parcel tax, the increases on the through to 2018, I believe, are a relatively modest increase of approximately $5 annually on that, and the increases have been required to help to offset additional expenditure requirements to help prevent lowland flooding and mitigate climate impact implications.
So just to the delegation, I'm aware that Metro Vancouver has also increased some of the rates pretty significantly, given some of the capital works that they've undergone over the last number of years. So there's 2 components to that. There's one that's generally carried over from Metro Vancouver in terms of any utilization rates that they pass over, and also rates that are increased by ourselves. And I know that global warming has been a pretty significant issue in terms of some of the drainage issues that we've been dealing with in our great city. So I'm hoping that will satisfy your question.
So the city's increase has been $5, but the additional increase has come from Metro Vancouver?
There have been additional increases from Metro Vancouver, yes.
That accounted for that $22 leap in...
I'm not sure about the drainage, but certainly for the water, and just for the water.
This is drainage, diking, flood protection, utility parcel tax.
Yes, all those increases have been city increases.
Yeah, so that was the drainage. On my tax bill, it was outlined, and that was the leap, $22. Okay, regarding the road traffic safety utility levy, this levy is first mentioned in the operating plan and indicated for a 1% increase. and I've commented on it there. However, in this report, it's noted again and states that the levy is based on the assessed value of individual properties in each property class. It's further noted that the road and traffic safety levy is proposed to be increased in 2015, such that the average single-family dwelling will pay an additional $15.56 per year. This is a little bit confusing for me, and does the suggested 1% increase mentioned in the operating budget work out to be $15.56 per average household? Through the chair.
Through the chair, the increase in the roads and traffic has been an equivalent 1% increase, and that's the way the increase was implemented in 2008 when it started, and has been maintained that. So it's not a 1% increase to the actual levy. It's an equivalent. It will raise equivalent to 1% in tax increase, and so that $15 is approximately a 1% tax increase, and that's the impact of that one.
Thank you. As stated during the discussion of the operating plan, I'm not happy to see what was originally described as a temporary tax continue, and I'm opposed to further increases. Much like the proposed new cultural and recreational parcel tax, I imagine that the road and traffic safety tax was originally intended to cover a specific and unexpected or unusual increase in costs, and it seems to have now become an expected and permanent funding source. It seems somewhat disingenuous to maintain that our taxes are only increasing by an amount necessary to keep up with inflation, and then add parcel taxes and levies to make up for shortfalls in revenue. Regarding the 5-year capital program, I've been advocating for some time for an increase in civic infrastructure, particularly related to parks, recreation, and library facilities, so I'm pleased to see that many of these projects are listed on the plan. This is by far the most difficult plan for me to understand from several perspectives. In the interest of time, I didn't have enough time to go through it thoroughly and examine every item on it or figure out how it was being funded, but I do have a few questions that I just jotted down quickly. So in this report, there's included an item 3.2 major capital plan chart that runs from 2015 to 2019. And then there's another Appendix 1 capital program chart from 2014 to 2018. So my question is, when you look at those two charts, are the costs for the 2015 to 2018 on Appendix 1 included in, or are they additional to the costs for 2015-18 shown in 3.2 chart?
Through the chair, in Appendix 1, this is the 5-year plan that was included in the 2014 to 2018 financial plan. To the 2014 column is the amount that was approved and went forward in 2014. The 2015 through 18 was the proposed plan for the future years. If we go back to the chart on section 3.1, the 2015 to 2019, the 2015 is what is recommended for 2015, and the remaining years are proposed. This is not in addition to, it is a replacement to that previous years.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And then another question on that, just the descriptions for the Clayton Rec Center Library project. On the one chart, it indicates, it's accounting for advanced design work, and on the other, it adds in a district office. Are we adding a district office facility or district RCMP officer, I'm guessing, to that facility, or is that just a...
Mr. City Manager.
Through the chair. At this point, we're doing the design of that facility and going to be doing the public consultation on it. We expanded the description of it because we would like to build a facility that's multi-use for a lot of different services that the city provides. But the detailed consultation work with the community and the design work has not been completed. But it's just a signal that we see it being a very active multi-use type facility.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, Appendix 2, Roman numeral 2, dash regular number 2, Capital Financial Plan Contribution Funding Summary in thousands. On this chart, under the title Contributions from Operating, it shows the SCDC at $4.5 million per year. I understand that we're expecting a growing return from SCDC, so I'm just curious as to why that 4.5 is a constant figure.
Mr. City Manager.
Through the chair, at this point, we have predicted, although SCDC revenues would increase, they also want to increase the equity into the company and the number of projects they can do. So we based we did it on a conservative basis where we said that $4.5 million would be delivered as a dividend to the City of Surrey. Any remaining profit that SCDC generates still stays in the company, which is wholly owned by the city. So it's just that we've been conservative in our outlook.
Thank you.
Thank you. So with it being this 5-year plan being looked at again next year, there's an opportunity to increase that depending on the rate. Okay. I wasn't able to find a line item for outstanding capital costs for the new City Hall. Nothing to account for the payment of the debt for the new City Hall in that plan. So I may have just missed it. Could you?
Through the chair, the loan payments are included in the operating.
Okay.
That's for all loan payments because now that the City Hall is constructed and operational, it's not a capital cost, so that it has been included and is in part of in Appendix I-2. It's listed as, I-3 has external borrowing, and those are the repayments for those loans. And it's not just City Hall in that line, it's for all the external borrowing projects that need to be repaid.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Is there any other members of the public?
I'm sorry, just one last thing to say. Given the importance of these financing decisions, the complexity of much of the information, and the financial impact these decisions have on businesses and citizens of Surrey, releasing these reports just 4 days ahead of the public meeting does not allow, in my view, adequate time to absorb, research, consider reasoned responses. The scheduling of this meeting on a weekday during the day means that many who must take time off work if they wish to speak, and in the interest of a more robust public consultation process, I would recommend that this meeting take place on a weekend, and in fact suggest that you provide additional opportunity for those not here today to provide input this coming weekend and defer decisions on fee increases, etc., to the next council meeting rather than tonight's. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So do we have any other members of the public who would like to make comments? Please come forward. Please state your name and your address for the record, please.
Okay. Hello, my name is Professor Kuldeep Pelia. I live at 104 Avenue, just nearby. And I have to tell you something about capital priorities of the city. I'm just giving you some example. It's nice to have low rates, low tax rates, but we have to see what we are getting, what sort of services we are giving to the citizens of Surrey. Okay, I give you an example. Our per capita income, according to per capita expenditure, according to the Fraser Institute 2012 report, is $951 in Surrey, and it's $1,689 in Vancouver, $1,351 in White Rock, and $1,384 average for the metro. So our per capita expenditure is very low, the lowest. Tax rate also you claim they are the lowest. But what we are giving, what we are giving to the people, what sort of services we are providing. Okay, give you an example. We have 9 libraries, 9 library branches in Surrey. Vancouver has 23 library branches. Here we have 1 library branch every 35 square kilometer. In Vancouver they have 1 library branch in 5 square kilometer area. Same way, recreation centers. We have 9 recreation centers. They have about 23 or 24, Vancouver. Police officers, according to 2011 Canada census, we have 137 per 100,000 of the population, but Vancouver has 202 per 100,000 of population. So we are not providing services to the people, to the public. We are not spending money. So we say, okay, our tax rates are low. So what use is it? What sort of logic is this? I say is we have to change our priorities. We have to increase our capital spending on projects. We have to provide more services to the people, more education centers, more libraries, more pools, better transportation facilities, more money spent on security and safety. That makes sense. But it will create also extra jobs and new jobs for the city. So that's what my point is, that capital spending, capital priorities should be changed. We have to spend more. We have to create more facilities. I have seen there's a 20-year plan, library plan. They gave me a master plan, 20-year master plan. It covers from 2014 to 2033, right? Next 20 years. And from there I could see they have only one branch is coming up by 2019. That's Clayton Heights. That's part of a complex because they're creating a education center and everything there, right? So they are just creating there will be one library there too as part of that complex. Just one library. So from 2011 to 2019, there will be just one additional library for Surrey. In the same period, the population would have increased almost about 200,000. So our facilities are not sufficient. That's my request to the city that we increase our capital priorities, increase capital expenditure. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Do I have anyone else wanting to speak? First call. Yep.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, Chair. I am Deb Jack, 7680 143 Street in Surrey. I am President of Surrey Environmental Partners, and I would like to speak to the budget and indicate to you what it is that we would like to see in the budget. I do have copies of my report that I'm going to speak to. I apologize that they got paper clips, but I ran into a snafu at Staples. I have some extras if people here at the...
I'll call the question on all in favor against carries. Thank you. So Deb, if I can get you to start, please.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to provide input into the draft City of Surrey 5-year 2015 to 2019 financial plan. Surrey Environmental Partners, SEP, is a non-profit serving as an umbrella organization for both partner groups and individual supporters concerned about the living natural environment. We represent approximately 1,200 people. Our primary focus is Surrey. Our main activities are education and advocacy. Our vision is a community where nature will flourish. Volunteers' activities. SEP supporters and partner group volunteer an enormous number of hours for Surrey, providing both needed services the city budget cannot provide and the opportunity to serve and be enriched through community involvement. Annually, thousands of children benefit from partners' programs, including hatchery visits, foreshore and forest exploration, and bird watching. We strongly support the Nature Centre and Nature Matters programming and continue to encourage full and expanded funding. Both the SHARP and SNAP programs are excellent and, of course, should be expanded further. SEP has participated in the development of city policies as a stakeholder for many initiatives such as the OCP review, responded to draft documents, been on the Community Advisory Committee for the West Clayton NCP, attended and responded at open houses, public consultations, and public hearings to reflect concerns regarding natural areas and sustainability matters. We see our involvement as an ongoing action and look forward to more. We propose for your consideration issues related to operations, capital expenditures, and policies which would have financial implications. But first, the Biodiversity Conservation Strategy, the BCS. Congratulations for your future-thinking choice and decision to fund the Biodiversity Conservation Program. This is an excellent beginning. I hope you all feel really good you are making an ever-appreciating investment. We are so far ahead with our BCS, you can be proud. This official recognition of the BCS, your advanced level of consideration, demonstrating commitment by recognizing the BCS as a separate issue rather than burying it elsewhere in the budget, is simply profoundly important. This is an outstanding legacy, and it provides ongoing operation while additional funding sources can be explored. Our BCS just outclasses everyone else's. And with this, we walk the talk, so to speak. Climate change data, addressed so well and thoroughly in Surrey's climate adaptation strategy, shows an increasing risky situation in all aspects. It must be emphasized, the more living green areas we have, the greater our personal and Surrey's resilience to cope with these changes. E.O. Wilson, the great botanist, said, "We are a biological species adapted to a biological world." Biodiversity Conservation Manager, to repeat a letter we sent to Mayor and Council in October 2014. Over the years, SEP has consistently requested that Surrey establish an environmental planner coordinator position. Every other city has had a comparable position or role. Now we are the only city with such a sophisticated, detailed, spatially explicit BCS, and no dedicated person to implement, including wildlife inventories, administer, monitor, and coordinate its effective establishment and maintenance to effectively realize Council's intent. The BCS provides objectives, strategies, and tools. It is integrated. Surrey requires a dedicated individual to oversee all the aspects of the BCS, to coordinate various departmental activities throughout the city which are impacted by it. The school board also needs to be on board. Therefore, liaison and education will be needed. Fundamental to this function is its educative aspect, ensuring all staff, present and future, are aware of the BCS and its implications for their functions. This is critical to effective BCS, GIN, and rapid implementation. We're concerned that the longer there is not a dedicated person, the greater the loss of opportunities, and significant losses appear shortly imminent as Surrey continues rapidly to mature and develop. It is our vision that this position would be the Biodiversity Conservation Manager, as Surrey has a Sustainability Manager. Indeed, the Sustainability Charter provided for the BCS. The BCS now impacts all operating and planning aspects of Surrey from a biodiversity conservation perspective, while the Charter in its effective administration continues to provide the comprehensive sustainability lens through which to view Surrey's activities and plans. Neither is superior nor inferior to the other. They are separate, yet together, both now inform the overall plans and activities of Surrey. Each city operations unit, Parks Engineering Planning, would have an environmental portfolio position to oversee all the environmental components of respective activities with knowledge of legislation, regulations, and policies, as each individual staff cannot know them all. The Biodiversity Conservation Manager position is essential for Surrey. We respectfully and urgently request Council's immediate attention to this matter. Operations, staffing. Surrey has outstanding staff providing us with good services and programs, and with whom it is always a pleasure to work. They're too numerous to list separately. I would wind up having another 10 or 20 pages. First, A, last year's park staff increased by 2 natural areas practitioners, the first increase in 13 years. We were so pleased to see the realization of a long-time request. Surely, I apologize, that's a typo, some kind of benchmark could be developed so that staff and contract resources increase along with natural areas acquisition, rather than a repeat the 13-year wait to the detriment of our natural assets. B, The federal omnibus bills C-38 and C-45 provide for more abdication of responsibilities and downloading by senior government to the city level, especially regarding the living environment. To begin to respond to this, we believe that Surrey must budget for at least 2 additional staff to assist the position of environmental coordinator located in the engineering department to compensate. The bill's impacts are proving to be great, and Surrey has had to take on additional functions such as vetting applications, determine compliance with our and other government levels, legislation, regulations, policies and standards, in addition to monitoring for actual compliance, etc., for example, regarding fisheries riparian areas. These positions would relate directly to planning for conservation and stewardship of Surrey's irreplaceable natural assets, compliance with our sustainability charter, and implementation of the biodiversity conservation strategy and green infrastructure network connected to engineering's responsibilities. A concern. One of our main issues over the years has been the adequate resources for care and maintenance of Surrey's natural areas. Up to 2 years ago, we provided Council as Finance Committee with a table demonstrating the percentage differences between staff budget request and allocation. 3 years ago, we were able to provide this information covering 10 years for the committee. Over those 10 years, the average allocation was 57.4 of request. Annual allocations had ranged from 100% to 20% of request in that 10-year period. Based on that year's experience, however, when staff was unable to continue to provide us with the basic data, we can only assume that the situation remains the same. So still, neither you nor we are able to see funding trends for this area of city responsibility. An admirable transparency of city operations has disappeared. How are we, you or us, to understand if we're adequately caring for our irreplaceable asset if we're not able to know this? We assume this aspect of the city budget is still too small to be specified in staff presentations, and wonder why the data would no longer be available. 2 years ago, staff advised us that Surrey apparently has a higher commitment to natural area management than any other city in the province, and that the Natural Areas Management Plan, award-winning, and that the funding that drives it make others envious. We assume that continues to be so. However, without the figures, we cannot adequately measure our actions, and SEP continues to believe the information is valuable, if not necessarily comfortable. Program, birding. It is not clear why Surrey does not view birding as a sport capable of attracting tourists. Prime birding occurs the shoulder season of other sports, late October through December and during spring migration. We're part of Canada's #1 bird area. We have numerous excellent birding areas. Birding tourists pay big money for their sport and travel the world for viewing locations. Perhaps we could coattail on Vancouver's Bird Week. Also, Surrey might consider connecting with the 130-year-old International Ornithological Congress, which will be meeting in Vancouver in 2018, attracting thousands of attendees. Seems to me this would be a good opportunity for Surrey. Capital expenditures. Acquisitions. For 8 years, SEP has advocated Surrey obtain 3 more very large parks in the order of the size or larger of Green Timbers, Colebrook Park and Sunnyside Acres, created in addition to the regular acquisition of natural area parks, and to be called perhaps living legacy parks. These and other lands will be required to implement the biodiversity conservation strategy and a green infrastructure network. It appears that in modern land use, indoor space is valued more than outdoor space. If private space is not available, then there's a greater need for public lands, including bigger medians, boulevards, and parks spaces. The reduction in development outdoor space might be better compensated for than present, in addition to regular parks acquisitions. Campbell Heights, Stokes Pit. We have suggested that one of the legacy parks could generally encompass what is termed Phase 2 of the Campbell Heights area, commonly known as Stokes Pit. Attached to Latimer Lake Park, it would include the forested land north of 28th Avenue, down to the land south of 20th Avenue towards 16th Avenue, including the Douglas Fir Forest on both sides of 192 Street. 20th and 24th Avenues not being put through to ensure the least amount of fragmentation of a splendid new park. This area encompasses wetland-type lands, fields as well as forests, providing wildlife, habitat and refuge. A A significant asset to Surrey, it would be exemplary of Surrey's complying with the Sustainability Charter's intent for the living environment. The lands south of 16th Avenue are of high BCS value as well, and they could well be included despite the significant fragmentation. SEPA suggested these parks be considered as natural capital investments. Even though Surrey has lacked a natural areas acquisition policy, natural areas have usually comprised 60 to 65% of total parklands. SEP continues to advocate for a minimum of 65%. This would not include the BCS GIN lands specifically, although parks are part of the overall framework of hubs, sites, corridors, and matrix. And we continue to advocate that the minimum parklands acquisition standard be increased to 5 hectares per 1,000 people, with the increase of 0.8 hectare being natural area. This would further assist the development of the GIN. Natural areas include wetlands and meadows, habitat for native insects and small wildlife, which affect at least 1/3 of agricultural pollination. That's an important consideration that we think we need not forget. Levy. We asked the city to implement a levy for the purposes of acquiring biodiversity conservation, green infrastructure network lands, as is done for roads, of 1% at least, and for at least 10 years. The time is now to do this. Surrey is running out of natural areas to acquire. It is difficult to estimate otherwise how we can achieve the intent of the Sustainability Charter to conserve and enhance Surrey's biodiversity and natural areas and provide for wildlife. As well, to adequately implement the Ecosystem Management Study, Green Infrastructure Network, GIN, concept, and the Biodiversity Conservation Study, BCS, recommendations. Times and conditions have changed permanently. We're at a critical cusp in time. These issues have lately been addressed by the Sustainability Office in the Climate Adaptation Strategy and the Community Climate Action Strategy documents. We and future citizens face a physical world unlike anything humans have faced before. We need to prepare to establish the best circumstances for greatest resiliency development. To repeat, Professor Sarah Otto, holder of the Canadian Research Chair and Director of the Biodiversity Research Centre at UBC, in the fall of 2012 gave a Vancouver Institute lecture at which she showed 2 maps of the world with scales to show how each country was doing insofar as biological diversity conservation was concerned for terrestrial and marine aquatic. Canada was at the bottom of both scales, along with such countries as China. She said that municipalities should be saving as much natural areas as possible. This emphasizes, of course, Dr. Richard Hebda, whom we quoted for you in 2007, "It is better to buy a natural area than to rebuild it." Such a levy would not preclude or replace increases in DCCs as appropriate, location area-specific levies, the city continuing to obtain grants, implementing cost-sharing with appropriate resources, and so on. The question is, do we have the courage to face reality and to make the correct decisions? As we have a climate adaptation strategy, it seems we do. Surrey need not look to any other jurisdictions for leadership. We should become other sources of best practices. And I emphasize, no matter how well we might have been doing, we have to do much better. Carbon reduction. Natural areas eat and sequester CO2 as well as other noxious gases and substances. Indeed, there's nothing more efficient, and they do it at the same time as providing us with many more services. The value of those biologic community services is greater for the whole than the sum of the parts. Cities occupy 2% of the planet, but they consume 75% of its natural resources. Indeed, all vegetation and soil eats carbon, thus comprising the BCS EMS matrix, the 4th BCS classification. Under policy, trees. No net loss parklands. SEP would like to see a no net loss policy so that when a piece of open parkland is converted to an artificial field or a natural area is converted to other parks use, that an equal amount of land would be added to the inventory of open land or natural area. This replacement would be in the nature of compensation for loss. Otherwise, Surrey will, bit by bit, continue to suffer natural area destruction and loss of wildlife habitat within its own inventory. An example of this is the South Surrey Recreation Centre clear-cut land on 24th Avenue. Tree replacement policy for city. We would like the replacement policy for city-owned trees destroyed by city, parks and engineering sections of at least 5 for 1, doubled when the tree is a Surrey old-growth tree, as was destroyed on 60th Avenue at 142 Street and previously on 64th Avenue east of King George for widening and for playing fields creation as at Jorth Park. This new policy would get a bit closer to biomass replacement and serve to mitigate the resulting gap in ecosystem services and habitat biodiversity loss experienced with the destruction of mature trees replaced by young trees. It would also better comply with the tree canopy and BCS concepts. Tree canopy. SEP has long taken the position that 47 to 50% is reasonable, especially as it includes the urban forests and given climate change effects. This exceeds the sustainability charter figure. Residential would be 40 to 50%, industrial commercial 25%. And industrial can be achieved with double lines of trees edging sites and naturescaping at buildings. In assessing the overall canopy cover, distinction between conifers and deciduous is required. It will be necessary for Council to constantly emphasize and enforce its understanding of the canopy's importance to citizen health and well-being in the face of development pressures requiring accommodation of and to existing trees via considerate layouts and building siting. Urban heat islands. In June 2005, at Saint-Laurent of Montreal, a study was done, and over 500 meters, there was a 17 degrees centigrade temperature difference. 23 degrees centigrade in the wooded area, 27 degrees centigrade at the golf course, 31 degrees centigrade in the residential area with light vegetation, and 40 degrees centigrade in the heavily paved built industrial zone. A difference of even 10 to 15 degrees centigrade is enormous concerning human health. Heat stroke can affect healthy people if they have lost the ability to adapt to temperature variations, and that's not unusual in this area. Urban heat islands are directly related to urban deforestation. Of note, Bing Tom saw city center with 10,000 trees. Trees are our natural AC, air conditioning systems. Tree planting has implications also for sports areas, which Parks is addressing. Tree planting. It appears that Surrey plants about 5,000 caliper trees a year. Surrey needs to double this number immediately to 10,000. It takes 20 to 40 or 100 years for trees to reach maturity and to begin to provide their full services. Our trees are a significant matrix component. Trees planted today will scarcely be mature in 2058, 44 years from now. When a big tree is gone, we lose multi-generational services. For example, it takes 5 trees, 50 years of growth, to become the equivalent to a 150-year-old tree, which means if we kept the 100-year-old tree and it grew to be 150, and plant today 5 trees, they're only going to be 50 years old. The BCS influences all Surrey trees, no matter the size. All trees on a site have value and contribute to the canopy and to the matrix. The absolute loss of undersized trees, that is, without evaluation or replacement, makes the canopy issue even worse as the city builds further. Interestingly, Vancouver, 1/3 our size, intends planting 25,000 trees for 6 years for a total of 150,000 trees. The number of trees being shared, they estimate, between city and private. In Surrey Care's publication Vital Signs, Cloverdale, Guildford, Newton and South Surrey had as #1 top issue, protect green space and trees from urban growth, while Whalley and Fleetwood had it #2. The environment was given a C grade, while residents expressed pride in the parks and natural areas that they have as indicated. But every effort from now on must be made to conserve our existing significant and larger Surrey old-growth trees by development, and especially the city. Tree preservation bylaw. More and more mature trees are disappeared. We would like to see graduated replacement ratios and money in lieu fees. That is, for every increase of 15 centimeters, 6 inches in diameter, beyond the present significant standard of 30 centimeters, 12 inches, a progressively greater replacement ratio and money in lieu of replacement be established. 10 years ago, the then mayor suggested a ratio of 3 or 4 to 12-inch diameter tree. The more trees we lose, the greater the value of services and biodiversity importance of the trees remaining, and the larger trees are becoming ever more rare. It makes no sense at all anymore to value a significant tree of 12 inches in diameter the same as a tree 2 feet or more in diameter. We would like to see varying benchmarks applied to differentiate between single-family homes and development, doing away with the unsuitable one-size-fits-all present model. For example, if destroying more than, say, 5 or 10 or 25 or 50 or 100 and so on trees, then X plus would apply for each category in terms of fees, replacement costs, etc. If fewer than 5, then Y minus would apply. It takes 20 to 40 years for trees to achieve maturity to begin to provide lost services equivalents. Natural areas monitoring and bylaw enforcement. Members of partner groups and supporters are continually witnessing the degradation and destruction of natural areas, regular, conservation, and ecologically sensitive. Everything, regardless of size, in the high ESA areas is protected. A few examples include damaging of fish-bearing watercourses and riparian setbacks by humans and their dogs off-leash, as in the Campbell Heights area, where there is also off-road cycling and recreational vehicle damage. Bark stripping and killing of cedar trees in Hazelnut Meadows Park. At Blackie Spit, the damage to, if not destruction of, spawning beds at the foreshore, human and their dog off-leash degradation of the environmentally sensitive Rene Savonaya Conservation Area, terrorizing wild birds, many of which are in the process of migration and ill able to expend unnecessary energy fleeing aggressive behavior, and off-trail activities by bikes, etc., such as in Sunnyside Acres Heritage Forest. Surrey has had for some years now programs of on-site cautioning and education. Volunteers in parklands also caution and educate. Sadly, it appears that many people refuse to consider that they're valid recipients, continuing their negative behavior without pause, and some are quite unpleasant. It appears that the pleasant, helpful approach is not terrifically successful. It costs a very great deal to repair and restore damaged and destroyed areas. It is one of parks' biggest expenditures. Some areas were previously restored through grant funding obtained and hard volunteer work done by community volunteers, SEP partner groups at Blackie Spit. Grant funders will not be inclined to refund those areas, or perhaps any areas in Surrey, if we cannot demonstrate that we are vigilant with effective stewardship by responsibly protecting our natural areas, particularly the special fragile ones, and enforcing where necessary. So we recommend that Surrey consider establishing a more extensive monitoring enforcement system, particularly on weekends, holidays, and spring, summer, fall weekday evenings, than at present, with personnel authorized to give out tickets with fairly stringent fines. Furthermore, we'd like to see greater incentives for landowners and development to ensure that preserved trees... I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense. My apologies for that. See, I'll refer to that at the end. Both the existing and newly planted replacements could be registered on land titles as protected. The existing protected trees could require bonds for 5 to 10 years, monitoring post-construction with that of substantial monetary consequences if the trees decline or die. The newly planted trees should be monitored probably 10 years, given watering requirements over the long, hot, dry summers to ensure health and their retention achievement of the free-to-grow status. After all, they are community assets, even if privately held. The older, the more valuable, and they comprise essential components of the matrix. Encroachments. Surrey, as other jurisdictions, suffers from private citizen encroachment on natural areas and other parklands. It takes the form of, for example, garden and lawn expansion, fencing in of land, garden refuse, and buildings such as sheds. Many are quite obvious and easily seen by those enjoying parks. Staff has confirmed that this is a problem. These actions degrade natural areas and parklands. Furthermore, it is a conversion of public lands for private purposes. As above, there's a need for greater monitoring and direct enforcement actions to rectify the encroachments. Otherwise, such behavior will continue to be seen to be allowed and will be copied, as is evident in driving around the city. Conclusion. SEP appreciates the opportunity to contribute to the deliberation about the financial plan. Some of our items require immediate implementation. SEP's partner groups and supporters are observant, committed, inquiring, informed, and concerned people who live, work, volunteer, and play in our community. We understand that the lives of Surrey citizens are enhanced and enriched by both the existence of and engagement with natural areas. We are conscious also of Surrey's moral obligations to steward its lands well in view of various designations such as Important Area, Bird Area, and Ramsar. References have been made about health impact of natural areas and trees. Much research has been done, and SEP hopes to present such information to Council in the future. It is exceptionally interesting and important. We believe we're at a place and time where how we decide to deal with our ecosystems and how much and where we decide to set aside lands for preservation, both in the course of development and in capital expenditure, will define Surrey in the future. Our urgency is driven by our understanding of climate change effects in the rapidity with which it is occurring. We want those in the future to look back at us, complimenting us for having used 21st century scientific knowledge and principled intent for having changed the way we do things, achieving a truly ecologically sustainable, healthy, and successful city. We are on our way. Now, I've made a feeble attempt at providing you with some kind of a form, I guess, here. Because I referred to climate change, I thought I'd give you an idea of the kinds of things that are being talked about. The climate change has to do with being above pre-industrial times. So that if average Earth temperatures increase 2 degrees centigrade, which is equivalent to 3.6 Fahrenheit, that is considered the point beyond which Earth should not pass. But it's a point at which a World Bank study foresees huge cuts in food production. If we go up to 4 degrees centigrade, which is 7.2 degrees Fahrenheit, forecast by both the World Bank, which says scenarios will be devastating, and the BC government without radical changes. And if we go to a 6 degrees centigrade, which is a 10.8 Fahrenheit forecast by the International Energy Agency, the IEA, without radical changes. That is simply considered to be nigh on unbearable for everybody who's left on the face of the planet. So are working towards everything we can to deal with creating the greatest resiliency we have for all of the citizens and for our natural areas is the best thing, in our opinion, we can be doing. I'd just like to list the people who are our partner groups: Friends of Semiahmoo Bay, Green Timbers Heritage Society, Little Campbell Watershed Society, Port Kells Community Association, Semiahmoo Fish and Game Club Hatchery, Semiahmoo Heritage Trail, Serpentine Enhancement Society, Sunnyside Acres Heritage Society, Urban Waters, which is about Cribble Creek, and White Rock and Surrey Naturalists. Surrey Environmental Partners is a member of BC Nature, which is the BC Federation of Naturalists. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Deb, thank you very much for your thoughtful presentation, as you do each year, so thank you for your comments. We do have Mayor Hepner.
Thank you, and thank Deb for such a great presentation. You've always come to the table with some good and strong suggestions, and we've utilized them, many of them, within the development of our conservation strategy. So I appreciate you being here today, and I appreciate that your organization has historically kept a very apolitical view, and for that we respect your opinion around this table, and I hope that continues. You made some interesting comments around birding, and I just thought it would be of interest to you to know that the Surrey Tourism Association has in fact over the years looked at how could we advance the understanding of birding in our community, and so knowing that that conference is going forward in Vancouver in years to come, I'll make sure that whoever represents the Tourism Association around this table can take that forth, and we can better advantage people in knowing what we do have to offer, because we already know it exists, and we've actually advertised it a lot in our tourism yes, throughout the years. So thank you for that, and thank you for the indications of where you think we may do a better job relative to trees and to the planting of trees. I think over the last 9 years we've got something like 93,000 trees planted, and so knowing how we're going to better utilize that canopy plan going forward is really important to us. And thank you for your thoughtful presentation. We'll take it under advisement and certainly look at it as we develop our plans and strategies. Thank you to your organization.
Anything else?
Councillor Hain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Deb, thank you very much for this, because clearly there's been an awful lot of time, thought, and consideration being put into this. And I would like to make a motion that we refer this document to the Environment Sustainability Advisory Committee, as well as perhaps the Parks and Rec Committee, because there's a lot of recommendations or pieces that touch both of those committees. And so I'd like to send it to both those committees with Council's approval so that they can look at it more in depth, have Deb come as a delegation, and then perhaps come back with some concrete recommendations to Council.
So on your motion, I've got a seconder, so I'll call the question. All in favour? Against? Carried.
Thank you very much. I look forward to those opportunities.
And we've got Councillor Steele as well.
Oh, yes.
Well, thank you, Deb. I couldn't turn my mic on. Thank you. You always provide us with such a good report, and it is used, and I've marked it through as you were reading, and marked
even
all the points in. Pardon? No, marked all the points that I need to keep, and I've got more of my marks on here than yours probably. I just think it's very, very important, and we will read it, and we continue to read it. You continue to give this kind of information to Metro Vancouver and to their Parks Department as well, so it just seems that we depend on this so much. So I thank you for taking the time. I thank you for reading it. I don't think without a drink of water you read that report, and that's amazing in itself. So just thanks for all the work that you continue to do. We really appreciate it. Thanks, Deb.
You're very welcome. And I remain available should any of you have any questions.
So again, I will ask the community, is there any other members of the public who would like to make any comments? First call, second call, and you'll be our last individuals.
Hello everyone, my name is Binder and I live in city of Surrey and close to Cedar Hills area, and I came on behalf of more than 50 people who live in city of Surrey because they couldn't make it, they had to go to work. And yeah, I mean, when I received December 11 the Surrey North Delta Leader newspaper, I could not believe it at the tax hike, because there was no mention of tax hike during election campaign. And I mean, before you propose any tax hike, I mean, in the budget you need to keep that in mind, that there's many low-income homeowners live in city of Surrey, and when the minimum wage is $10.25, their net minimum wage is $6.95. And we have little young teenager children. There's many things that we need. We cannot have it. Our house need new paint. Either we have to use a line of credit, or we delay it, because our budget is already so tight, and we don't have a job security, and we work day by day, and we rely on paycheck to paycheck. I walked here 1.5 hours to save $5.50, and I save $150 on a transit fare, or you can say car services, so we can pay more to city of Surrey. And I mean, homeowners are poor. I agree with everything that Linda said, and I also agree with Jordan Bateman, BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. He said that the tax hike proposal is very disappointing news, and I don't know how many times I had to read leader newspaper, and I could not believe it because, okay, our house need a fence. We can't afford it because we don't have extra money, and outdoor cats and dogs, they come into our yard, they poo, and I have to clean it every day in front of our house, and then the city of Surrey's trees leaves comes into our yard, and which makes me tired picking almost during fall time almost every day, and then also have to pull beets so long out here in the yard. And who knows when our fridge is going to stop working, who knows when we have to replace stove, and how long our furnace is going to last, and when we're going to have to change our hot water tank. So we need money for the rainy days. And last 7 years I could not go back to India to see my sisters, and one of them was so sick, and I cannot take my children back to India to show them this is where your mom and dad grew up and they got their education. So I was teacher in India, and here I end up working so many hard jobs. Like I worked in a restaurant, washed heavy dishes, janitorial jobs, and I take my daughter to farm to pick blueberry for $3 an hour, sometimes $2 an hour, and me and my son would deliver newspaper in a hot, cold weather for $1.50 an hour, and I mean to make ends meet. So do you think it's fair to raise this much taxes when me and my husband's gross family income is only $40,000 and we have to provide for 5 people in the family? And our children see that, how hard their mom and dad work. Okay, we are the homeowners and we pay almost 15 bills every month, and big chunk of our income goes toward mortgage payment to pay City of Surrey 2 taxes, one utility tax in April and one in property tax in July. And I mean after that our house insurance goes up, hydro bill gone up, gas bill gone up, internet gone up, home phone gone up, everything costs us more. And yeah, last 10 years I would love to have a cell phone, but I don't have one. We need a second car, we cannot afford one. So okay, so if we were good obeying citizens, we came from Vancouver to here, so that because we could never buy a home in Vancouver, we saved money for 10 years, plus we brought some money from our own country, and then we built our credit, and we have been working 6 to 7 days a week. I don't care if I don't get any job, I'll do a job for $3 an hour instead of doing any crime. So okay, homeowners are so busy paying all these bills, we don't have time to do any crime. It's those people who don't work, who are on welfare, or like what I can say, like who did crime and there's a possibility they'll do it again. So I mean, we care about this city, we care about this country. Please, this is not fair. This is not fair. We're not happy to live in Surrey anymore. I finally get to know my community, and then City of Surrey. Since Surrey first came in power, last 9 years, property tax gone up more than 100%, and plus utility tax goes up almost $200 every year. The flat rate. Okay, yeah, we have a secondary suite. Is that a crime to have a legal secondary suite in the City of Surrey? Because who pays for people who live in our house clean water? Who pays for their sewer? Who pays for their garbage? And we provide them electricity, heat, and we pay more taxes to City of Surrey. I wish our family paid $593 property tax, but this is not true. Our property tax are almost $4,000. Yeah, we have a suite, so we pay more. The flat rate goes up almost $200 every year. and we use water so wisely. So you don't know how many times I cried on my way when I walked here, almost 1.5 hours. My knees hurt, my back hurt, I have back problem, I still work. My husband's health is not that good. He still works 9 to 11 hours a day. And we came from a hard-working family, but please, 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 this is too much. We cannot take this anymore.
Thank you for your comments. And I'll do one last call. There's an opportunity for any other members of the public who might make any comments. First call, second call, and third and final call. We're going to move into corporate reports now. We're going to move into corporate report F049, the 2015 5-year financial plan, the general operating.
Move the recommendations.
Is there any questions? Seeing no questions, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Against? Carried. Corporate report F050, the financial plan for utilities and other self-funded programs.
Move recommendations.
Do I have a seconder? Second. Seeing no questions, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Against? Carried. F051, the financial plan for capital program.
Move the recommendations.
Seconder. Seeing no questions, I'll call the question. All in favor? Against? Carried. And corporate report F052, the Surrey Crime Prevention Society.
Move the recommendation.
Second. Seconder. I'll call Councillor Villeneuve.
Thank you. I just see that there's an increase in the grant to the Surrey Crime Prevention Society, and it's a fairly substantial increase. So what I'd like to see is, after a year, a good report back on really what they've achieved with that kind of substantial addition to their funds. I think they've done a great job over the years. There were 1 or 2 years where there was a little bit of lag. So I think it's under good leadership now, but I think with that kind of substantial funding increase that we should have some benchmarks and see reporting back.
Thank you for that. All right. If I could have someone move adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
To vote on it?
Mayor Hafner. Sorry.
Thank you. Just before adjournment, it really bothers me to see a report that says that somehow we're making this up, that we're the lowest taxed in the region, and that the information we have and we are providing to the public is incorrect. And I don't like to see it, and I don't like to hear it, and I don't believe you're giving me incorrect information. So I really want to know why we're doing that comparator, in fact, if we go out and publicly say we are the lowest tax in this region, or even the second lowest tax given Langley City and their casino and 3-block radius. I want to know that that is actually real. So with whatever you've got there, could someone get to us and give us the analysis of why that is there, or what it is that is either we're incorrect or they're incorrect, or we're not comparing apples and oranges. But to be told by the Fraser Institute that we're the lowest in the region, and to hear you tell us that we're the lowest in the region, even given these increases, I want to know that that is so.
I can address that right now. The information that was provided to me by the speaker shows the comparison of property tax rates as opposed to property taxes. And the property tax rate is applied to the assessed value. Each community has their own assessed values. So most communities in the region have a significantly larger assessed value than the City of Surrey. Hence, adding a lower tax rate to it will still generate a higher property tax value. We look at solid whole dollars, so we compare out-of-pocket costs for each taxpayer throughout the region. We take the tax rates times that community's average excess value, so what the average taxpayer in each community is out of pocket, and that's what we're comparing.
So I can, and this council can publicly say that even with these increases, we remain the lowest or close to the lowest taxed in the region, both residentially and business-wise. And that is including all the levies that we have just now, with the addition of the culture and recreation levy, added. Is that a fair
that's
statement?
correct.
Is that a true and fair statement?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Move adjournment.
Seconder.
Did we vote on that crime prevention review?
We did.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
A seconder on adjournment?
Second.
Call the question. All in favor, against, carried.
Great.
Let's do it.